We're about to listen to Palantir's COO Shyam Sankar talking through Project Maven and how that defense-grade stack maps directly into Palantir's commercial business. I want you guys to listen out to two big lines: speed to decision and shared architecture. That's the advantage I think us shareholders should be caring about: long-term, repeatable decision pipelines that compress time and expand advantage. Let's dive in.
Let's talk about an example where responding to real-world events was much faster and allowed much more experimentation as a result of building the platform right, getting the abstractions right in enough advance that then when it came time to deployment, the team was able to do it super fast, which is Project Maven. Can you just walk us through the story there?
Yeah, Maven started in the U.S. government roughly 2017, where the government, they called it an algorithmic warfare. Like,
right.
What is our next offset? How do we drive more deterrence? And really the question there is, John Boyd had this concept of the OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act. Whoever can go around this loop as quickly as possible is going to win. He really came up with that doctrine for dogfighting, like, because we were getting our ass kicked by the MiGs and we couldn't understand why are these Soviet MiGs better than us, and really our airframes were just less agile. You couldn't get around that loop fast enough.
Could you take a second to explain what algorithmic warfare meant in this context?
So in this context, it was really about how can how many of you guys have used the global entry and come through, like, okay, two of you. So it's actually kind of a pretty pleasant experience now. You show up, it sees your face, and it's like you get you don't have to like scan your passport anymore. If you think about the global entry sensor, your face is about 80% of the field of view of the sensor.
Right.
If you think about a space-based sensor taking a picture of the Earth, the thing you're looking for is less than 0.2% of the field of view. So, okay, you took this picture. What are you supposed to do with this now, right? In the classical way before algorithmic warfare is like a human is scanning, panning through probably what is like a 10 mile by 10 mile photo of the Earth looking for something.
An analyst.
Yeah, an analyst. It's ridiculous.
Now, this is important because it shows the old bottleneck Palantir was built to erase. Scanning a giant 10-mile image by hand is the pre-AI world. Project Maven started as a US military AI project focused on computer vision, using AI to analyze drone and satellite video to detect objects. But the real move was turning detection into decision and automatically surfacing what matters to a person who can act and act in time. That's the loop which they keep tightening. For investors, this is why Palantir's platform matters more than any single model. Models improve and the edge is the pipeline. Ingest, fuse, verify, task, and log decisions for audit. The faster you can loop, the quicker cash flows heads your way. When the raw data is massive, the company that turns into clear targets, tasks, and outcomes earns trust and budget. Quick plug, did you know YouTube is one of the best ways to bring in new revenue? One business we worked with landed 33 clients in just 5 months, worth $330,000 through a channel we launched with them. If you run a business, the chances are you're missing a massive opportunity if you're not using YouTube. Book a call with me down below to find out more. Cheers.
So you're always looking for the keys where the lights are on.
Right.
Really, and so this is an obvious, and you think about 2017 where we were, computer vision was, getting mature. It was the first place to start. It's like, great. So I should be able to take pictures of areas of the world I care about and look for missile silos, look for transporter vector launcher. So like you could have ballistic missiles that are driven around on trucks, right? And they're always driving them around because they want you to now be able to find where they are.
Right.
And if you want to drive deterrence, you want to be able to tell your enemies, I know where every one of your ballistic missiles is. It's not today is not the day to start shit because I know where everything you have is. Right. And that's how you preserve the peace. So it's a clear application of how can you use that to determine where all the targets are. But as you start pulling on that thread, the journey from say 2017 to the present is you start by saying, we all have this like Top Gun Maverick view of the world where it's like, well, don't we already know that?
Right.
So if you think about military doctrine, actually any strike that takes less than 96 hours of planning is considered a dynamic strike. For the history of warfare, we've always thought we'll have plenty of time to plan things. And the planning phase is actually quite slow. They call that deliberate planning. It's quite deliberate. The logistics are complicated. That's why you kind of need this. So, our ability to actually respond to unanticipated moves of the adversary is low. You get into a cycle where you're like, I don't know how to do this yet. So the first challenge that was given to us is, hey, how can I even find 1,000 things to go destroy in 24 hours? That was hard. It was hard to go find those things in a circumscribed set of area. Once you solve that problem, you realize like, oh, I can find these things, but I don't know how to process them. Like what am I supposed to do about them? And that's the next kind of challenge with algorithmic warfare, which is like, okay, well, how do I figure out what are the right weapons to use? What units would I dispatch that? How would I get through the process? How do I get the JAG, the lawyer, to sign off on this? How do I know that I have positive ID of what I'm shooting at? And then once you solve that problem, you realize, well, I'm logistics constrained. I'm actually out of ammo. I can't even do this mission.
This is where people realize it isn't only about finding the target. You also need to pick weapons, route units, and ensure supply. If any of those links fail, the whole outcome degrades. Sharm's point is once you automate detection, the next constraint appears. Legal review, targeting, inventory, resupply, even counterfactuals like, if I take this shot now, do I miss a more valuable one tomorrow? Palantir's advantage shows up in these boring, critical edge like workflows, policy guardrails, inventory, and predictive resupply that triggers before the red light flashes. This is enterprise software at defense scale. The kind of plumbing that keeps missions moving forward and, translated to business, keeps factories running and keeps shipments on time. The more connections they build, the harder it is to leave.
So how do I now solve those problems? That goes to predictive resupply. Like, how do I know what to order before I'm even doing this mission? How do I start evaluating the counterfactual regret? Like, if I take this shot, actually tomorrow there would have been something more valuable to go shoot at. And you can see how if you get really good at this, if you're 10 times better at this than your adversary, that is a very powerful deterrent.
And at what point, I mean, part of the deterrence doctrine there is that your adversary needs to understand your capability.
Yeah.
So at what point, when you were building this capability, was your calculus that, okay, now we've got to actually broadcast this capability to the adversary, because if they don't know about it, then we're not effectively deterring them?
Yeah. Well, the military has regular, what they call exercises.
Right.
They're always exercising, and part of the exercise, it's really their calculus, not mine, on what do you reveal and what do you conceal.
Right.
Right. And so the point of revealing capabilities is to deter it. Is to say, like, look how good we are.
Right.
And of course, your adversary is always studying what's going on in the exercises, and they're trying to think about, what could I build that would counteract your advantages here? And as a consequence, you're always concealing things because you want to make sure that you have some capability in reserve that they haven't been able to plan for, haven't been able to think about.
Right.
And if the moment came, would in your war games at least, would suggest that you're likely to win.
So to put it in sort of traditional infra terms, would an exercise like that be the equivalent of a WWDC keynote where you're trying to tell the developer ecosystem, these are the capabilities coming?
I think that's a pretty good metaphor. Except you're actually doing it in the real world.
Right.
So there's like the adversary sensor should be able to look at this, perceive it, see it.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's a good metaphor. Now, I think, we focus very much on the government side of what we do here, and that's obviously what we're best known for, but it's only 50% of our business, right? The other 50% is commercial. Like our software is used to build every BMW, every Chrysler, every HD Hyundai ship, every Airbus airframe.
Think of it as moving from a kill chain to a value chain. If you see a decision chain, defense and commercial run on the same backbone, replace sensor to shooter with supplier to customer, and the mission is the same. Cut time, boost confidence, and track every step for compliance. That's why you hear names like BMW, Chrysler, Hyundai Heavy, and Airbus. Once the system handles the toughest compliance and visibility in the world, expanding into insurance, healthcare, and manufacturing is easy by comparison.
And I think that's really important. It can seem like two wildly disjoint businesses, but they're actually very, very related. And that's because in the government, you call it a kill chain from sensor to shooter.
Right.
In the commercial world, you call it a value chain from the hand of your supplier to the hand of your customer. And then I think a computer scientist would look at this and say the abstraction is this is a decision chain. And I'm making a series of decisions. Every decision I make constrains the options I have downstream of that. And I want to actually think about this more holistically and figure out ways of optimizing it. That's your OODA loop there.
Right.
And that's how you can see how the capabilities you deliver in one area actually are relevant R&D to the capabilities you deliver in other areas.
I see. So the compliance requirements might be different, but really the architecture is fairly shared across both commercial.
They are that different. Like if you we've automated AIG's insurance underwriting process.
Right.
Insurance is regulated in every state. So you have 50 regulators to deal with, the amount of observability data, what they expect of you. It's really not that different. And I think by building for that high bar in government, you actually get a lot of, it's like superset of everything you need in commercial.
The superset line says it all. Build for the toughest conditions, contest environments, legal oversights, full audits, and you enter commercial markets already overqualified. For shareholders, that's leverage. The same platform that thrives in a fast-moving fight also drives margin in a fast-moving market. Faster cycles, fewer blind spots, clearer governance. The story compounds because each new link makes the next one cheaper to add and harder to replace. If you found this video of value at all, please do hit subscribe. Cheers.